Hello and welcome. Well, oil prices this morning, ever since the statement from Donald Trump, seem to have taken a bit of a respite. But has this war now reached our kitchen? And cooking gas prices now getting impacted? Hello and welcome. This is 5 Live. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor, and over the next 1 hour, we bring you an understanding of what exactly is the gas crisis all about. Why is it hitting your city, and should you be concerned about your kitchens as well? In the second half of the program, we've got another very fascinating story for you. We keep talking about pollution in the winters, but do you know the phenomena of summer pollution? And did you know that as of this morning in Delhi NCR, the AQI was 322? What exactly is causing all of this will be covered on the program. All right, straight away cutting across to some updates coming in, and this is according to sources in the cabinet meeting today that was held a little while ago. Prime Minister Narendra Modi directed the ministers to work together to reduce the impact of the ongoing conflict in Middle East on the citizens of India and ensure complete preparedness for any possible challenge, perhaps hinting at the rising crisis of oil pricing and now LPG shortage that looms all across the country. Prime Minister there and the cabinet of ministers taking cognizance of that matter. Remember, today was the cabinet meet. You see those visuals in front of you as well, where it's been taken into account what's really happening. What's been happening at the war front. Himanshu, my colleague, joins us for more details on this. Himanshu, we've seen sustained LPG crisis. We have seen oil prices go up as well. Government so far had continued to say that there is no crisis at all. So what exactly do these comments in the cabinet meeting mean?
देखिए, आज प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी ने जो है कैबिनेट में हमारे सोर्सेस के अकॉर्डिंगली जो कहा है, उन्होंने कहा है सभी मंत्रियों को जो एक तरीके से डायरेक्शन दी है और कहा है सबको मिलकर काम करना होगा। ये किसी पर्टिकुलर मंत्रालय का नहीं है, किसी भी चीज को लेकर क्राइसिस है तो पूरी कैबिनेट सभी मंत्री एकजुट होकर काम करें और जिससे कोई भी जो इंडियन सिटीजन है उसको किसी भी तरीके का जो है वो उनके ऊपर जो है प्रभाव ना पड़े। और साथ ही साथ उन्होंने कहा जिस तरीके की आने वाले दिनों में चुनौतियां हैं उनको लेकर पूरी तरीके से आप तैयारियां करें, सुनिश्चित करें कि ये जो चुनौतियां आने वाली हैं इसका इफेक्ट और इम्पैक्ट जो है आम आदमी के जीवन पर नहीं पड़ना चाहिए।
ऑलराइट हिमांशु, सारी जानकारी के लिए बहुत-बहुत शुक्रिया। And the ripple effects of the war in the Middle East are now being felt in India as well, even in our kitchens. A disruption in LPG supplies has pushed restaurants and hotels into a deep crisis, forcing many to cut down their menus, raise prices in some cases, and even shut down operations. From north to south, from east to west, almost every major city in India today is feeling the pinch. Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, Chennai, Hyderabad, restaurants in many of these cities say that they are now operating on the thinnest margins, with LPG supplies dying out, and the situation could only get worse. The centre has now invoked what is called provisions under the Essential Commodities Act. This means it will ensure uninterrupted supply for domestic cooking gas. However, for commercial uses, there are different norms. The Petroleum Ministry has directed refineries, petrochemical units to maximize LPG production by diverting key hydrocarbon streams into propane and butane into the LPG pool. The government has also prioritized LPG supply for households, introducing a 25-day booking gap to prevent any sort of hoarding. So if you're trying to book one or think that, oh, crisis is coming, let me try, you can't book if you don't have the gap of at least 25 days. And also, reserved imports of LPG from critical care centers such as hospitals. Government sources also say that there is no crisis. Whatever issue will be resolved. But the restaurants and eateries, they are scrambling. They tell a very different story. Many are cutting dishes from their menus, others are slowing down operations, and some have already shut their doors. Let's take a look at how this is actually panning out city by city. Let's start with Bengaluru. The crisis has reached some of city's most iconic eateries. The Bengaluru's Hotels Association says the supply of commercial LPG cylinders has almost completely stopped, putting thousands of restaurants completely at risk. Even the very iconic Vidyarthi Bhavans there says the shortage could affect operations.
We are at a Nisarga Grand Restaurant, which supplies food the entire day, whether it is a breakfast or lunch, where people come in large number here to have. And there are close to 1 lakh restaurants, small, medium and large scale restaurants across the state. And what we get to learn through people is that you require nearly 6 cylinders on a daily basis in a mid-range restaurant like this. You can see here, these are the 6 cylinders which was being used yesterday, and they don't have stock for tomorrow. Since there is no cylinders for tomorrow, there might not be cooking which will happen as usual in these kind of restaurants. So that is one of the worrisome for the people as well as the restaurant owners, where they claim that when they spoke to the Indian gas distributor, they claim that they don't have enough stock. The stock has been stopped from Saturday, and whatever the available stock which was there, they have already used that stock from last 2 days. And remember, charcoal and firewood has been completely banned across the city of Bengaluru and across the state, so people cannot use even the charcoal and firewood. They are solely depending upon these gas cylinders.
Many restaurants in Bengaluru are facing severe commercial gas crisis, and I'm here at one of the iconic restaurants in Bengaluru, a 1943 pre-independence iconic restaurant, Vidyarthi Bhavan, where they sell the best masala dosas in the whole city of Bengaluru. And joining me is Mr. Arun Adiga also, and behind me is the dosa tawa that you see. Because of the severe crisis that we are seeing of the commercial gas, of the 4 tawas, they only have 2 tawas running, just to ensure that they have the maximum utilization of the available resources. Let me get in a word with Mr. Arun himself as to what is the exact situation right now, sir. Everyone knows Vidyarthi Bhavan in Bengaluru. Its iconic dosas have been favorite for decades now. What is the situation? Is it real crisis or is just fear-mongering among people?
We definitely believe it as a real crisis. Till we get a stock from our dealer, we believe it to be true. Because Sunday there is no supply. Yesterday was the first day of the week where we didn't get the usual supply. And by afternoon we came to know that there is no supply for commercial cylinders. So that is when the panic mode started with the hoteliers. So till now we don't have any word from the dealer. Dealer is dependent on the government agencies. He says the refilling stations are totally stopped. They have stopped giving to any commercial gas cylinder refilling.
That was Bengaluru. What about Chennai, where restaurants again are feeling the pinch? Hotel associations warn that LPG deliveries have become irregular, forcing kitchens to cut down on their menu items and even going to ration fuel usage. Many eateries saying that if supplies do not stabilize soon, they may be forced to shut operations temporarily.
We are reporting from the iconic Adyar Anand Bhavan in Pondi Bazaar. It's a very iconic hotel. Hundreds of people throng here every single day for the yummy food that Adyar Anand Bhavan serves. And now the Chennai Hotels Association, including the A to B restaurant we are reporting from, have raised an alarm about the kind of shortage of commercial LPG. In fact, they have written a letter to the Prime Minister stating and requesting for uninterrupted supply of commercial LPG for the food industry. Chennai Hotels are saying that they have enough stock left only for the next 1 to 2 days. After that, there's going to be a severe short supply, post which even we would have to shut down, like how Bangalore hotels have shut down. So please make sure that we get that the supply chain for commercial LPG is not hindered, is the kind of request that all the Chennai Hotels Association owners and members have requested to the central government. With camera person Daniel, Anaga Keshav reporting for India Today from Chennai.
From Chennai, let's move to Hyderabad, where LPG deliveries have slowed sharply in the recent days. Many eateries now preparing contingency plans, including reducing cooking hours or even switching to alternative cooking methods.
The shortage in LPG, commercial LPG gas, has already started hitting Hyderabad hotels here. We are in one such hotel here in Hyderabad, the Forum Biryani House, where the crisis has already hit where this is a peak lunch time and the kitchen here seems to be silent. Right now you can see all the raw materials are ready, but the shortage in LPG gas cylinders have led to the hotel halt its functions, and cooking and preparation are still to be done as the LPG cylinder is now awaited after the shortage that is being going on in the city of Hyderabad. बताइए सर, क्या क्राइसिस चल रहा है, क्या हालात है, और आपके होटल में इस वक्त में जो ज़्यादा आपके कस्टमर्स होते थे अभी साइलेंट क्यों है?
साइलेंट वही गैस का प्रॉब्लम है, और ये लंच आवर है, देखिए आप क्या क्या पोजीशन है, और ये गैस का अरेंजमेंट करने के लिए मैं 2 दिन से घर को नहीं गया। 4 से 5 सिलेंडर लगते, अब मुश्किल से 2 सिलेंडर मिले। बिजनेस लंच आवर हम लोग ड्रॉप करके, रमजान है, रात का काम चालू कर रहे हैं। तो मैं तो इससे पहले एक चैनल में देखा था न्यूज़ में कि 74 डेज का स्टॉक है, लेकिन अब 10 डेज के अंदर ही माल नहीं है बोल रहे हैं।
Let's cut across to Kerala now, which is also feeling the LPG crunch. My colleague Shibmol actually reports from a hotel in Trivandrum, where the owner says that they can operate only until today due to limited gas, and urging the government to take immediate action.
Hotel industry across the country facing an LPG shortage. Things are not really different in Kerala also, with the hotels slowly shutting down. As till yesterday we did not hear many of these hotels shutting down or planning to shut down, but today we are learning that they're all running short of LPG cylinders, and there might be a situation where they'll also have to choose this way of shutting down. Now we are in Thiruvananthapuram at a hotel. When we spoke to the owner, what he said is that they are facing shortage, and after today they don't know how to run the hotel because of this LPG shortage. And also one of the important issues that they're raising is that there is an unwanted rates that taking place if they keep an extra cylinder. They're saying there's no rule that you cannot keep an extra cylinder beyond the number suggested. But what we're learning is that from tomorrow or today onwards, today evening onwards, the situation might get severe in Kerala also at this moment. With video journalist Tinku Rashtriga, Shibimol KG for India Today from Tirunelveli.
And if after watching all those reports you thought this was only a South India problem, think again, because Mumbai is also witnessing visible impact of the LPG crisis. Restaurant bodies say at least 20 hotels and eateries have already shut down operations due to LPG shortages. Many others are now reportedly running on limited menus as they struggle to secure commercial cylinders much needed for daily cooking.
सर हमारे 2 घंटे में दुकान बंद होने वाली है, क्योंकि हमारे पास ये यहाँ बताइए उनको, ये सिर्फ ये खाली है और ये इतना ही बचा है, और हमारी होटल छोटी है। यहाँ से मोस्टली सब होटल 400-500 फुट या 600 फुट के होते हैं, वहाँ उनको स्टोरेज करने का कोई मौका नहीं रहता। 1 दिन या 1.5 दिन का वो स्टोरेज रख सकते हैं, और आज ये हालत है कि हम सभी होटल बंद होने वाले हैं। ये बड़ी दुख की बात है कि ये सब 7 दिन से चल रहा है। गवर्नमेंट को पता है, हमारे आमदार खासदार कॉर्पोरेटर को पता है कि ये होने वाला है, मगर कोई भी गवर्नमेंट या हमारे आमदार खासदार कॉर्पोरेटर ने इसके बारे में कोई हमको चेतावनी नहीं दी है, कि हमको हमारे प्लानिंग नहीं किया या हमसे संपर्क करने की भी कोशिश नहीं की है। बड़ी दुख की बात है कि हम हॉकर्स के बारे में जरूर बात करते जोर शोर से, मगर कानूनी जो दुकानें हैं जिसके वजह से आपको पगार मिलता है, आपको मजा सब एमिनिटीज मिलती है, उसके बारे में हमारे आमदार खासदार कॉर्पोरेटर जो है वो बिल्कुल चुप है। ये बड़ी दुख की बात है।
Strong words there by that Mumbai businessman. But what about Kolkata, which is also witnessing an acute shortage of non-domestic LPG cylinders? Several restaurants there say supplies have completely stopped since this morning. One of the city's largest confectionery and restaurant chains has halted operations in its central kitchen, which normally uses nearly 40 cylinders a day. While petrol, diesel, CNG remains available for now, industry bodies fear that shortages could emerge in the coming days as well.
With the West Asia conflict aggravating situation in India as far as the petroleum product and LPG is concerned, situation is slowly starting to be grim. However, government have assured all kind of help from their part, but as far as Kolkata is concerned, the hotel and restaurant chains are worst hit. On the other hand, as far as petrol and diesels are concerned, the situation is not that bad, but they are apprehending that situation can turn from bad to worse anytime soon now. But as far as the hotels and restaurant chains are concerned, they are worst hit. These are the burners that remains to be switched off as we speak since this morning. There have not been any official communication to the owners of the hotels and restaurants that there will be scarcity of LPGs, but as the government have said that they are prioritizing the consumption of the domestic LPGs, henceforth there is a severe scarcity as far as non-domestic LPGs are concerned. This is not about only one shop or a chain of restaurants, but similar thing can be seen across the city Kolkata. A representation will be sent shortly from the association part to the ministry for a swift response, but as of now the situation is turning from bad to grim. If this continues, the owners are apprehensive that how will they be continuing with their businesses in days to come. With video journalist Shubhajit Gayan, Taposh and Gupta for India Today in Kolkata.
All right, and those burners not working is just not the story of South India or even central, up north in Punjab and Chandigarh. The situation remains the same. LPG shortage is being reported in Chandigarh as well, raising concerns among households as well as businesses. Authorities have stopped the supply of commercial LPG cylinders across Punjab and Haryana, restricting them only to essential institutions like hospitals and colleges. Now, domestic cylinders will now be delivered only after online booking and verification, with a minimum, like we told you earlier, 25-day gap between deliveries. Residents say they are struggling to get cylinders, while restaurants warn they may have just 1 or 2 days left of LPG supply.
The ripple effect of the Iran-US-Israel war is now having its impact in several cities of India. This includes Chandigarh, where we are in one of the major restaurants behind me, where you can see actually cooking taking place. But even here, there seems to be scarcity as far as the LPG is concerned. Now, many of the restaurants are relying on the PNG gas line, but many are still relying on the commercial cylinders. And this is where the real impact is, because remember, the households have been given a priority, but the scarcity is going to hit not just the commercial interest, but also the household cylinders. Even though the government is saying there's nothing much to panic about, but remember, people are already worried. With camera person Aman, this is Kamaljit Sandhu in Chandigarh for India Today.
All right, so that's the story of how the crisis of cooking gas is hitting all across the country. But if you, like me, are wondering, how is a war in West Asia leading to cooking gas prices back home, then the next story is for you. The war in West Asia is now threatening India's natural gas supplies as well, with Qatar declaring force majeure, and LNG shipments and disruptions that have taken place around the Strait of Hormuz. Concerns are rising over gas availability in the country. But how exactly? What is the connection between the two? The next story will take you through all of those details. Every morning across India, millions of blue flames come alive. From household kitchens to factory furnaces, to fertilizer plants feeding farms across the country. That quiet blue flame is natural gas. And today, there's a danger of a flame out. Because the war in West Asia isn't just threatening oil supplies for India, the bigger risk may actually be gas. Unlike the more high-profile oil tankers, LNG cargoes move through fixed contracts, limited ships and fragile shipping routes. Which means when gas supplies are disrupted, the shock travels much faster. India consumes more than 5,200 million cubic metrics of gas every month. Less than half of it is sourced domestically. For most of it, India is dependent on imports. And the biggest of them is Qatar, a country that has declared force majeure on LNG supplies last week. And though US is the largest producer and exporter of LNG, India sourced just 18% from there. Other suppliers include UAE, Angola and Oman. The other vulnerability lies in geography. More than half of India's LNG cargoes travel through the Strait of Hormuz from Qatar and UAE. The same narrow waterway is now holding back these crucial supplies for India. The impact has been immediate. Petronet LNG is India's largest importer. It issued a force majeure last week as well, upending plans of the entire Indian industry. Gas is deeply woven into country's economy, powering everything from fertilizer plants to household kitchens, power plants and even industry. And any shortage of gas could ripple across sectors. Anticipating shortages, the Indian government has now stepped in. Using the Essential Commodities Act, refineries and petrochemical complexes have been ordered to divert hydrocarbon streams like propane, butane, propylene and butene towards cooking gas. Gas producers have been explicitly directed to send LPG only to the 3 public sector oil companies: Indian Oil, Bharat Petroleum and Hindustan Petroleum, and from there, straight to household kitchens. In yet another order, producers have been asked to ensure 100% supplies to vehicular CNG, 70% supplies to fertilizer plants and 80% to tea industries, manufacturing and also other industrial consumers. But there's a fear of shortages, especially amongst restaurants and hotels which have been warned of mass closures citing the unavailability of commercial cooking gas cylinder. There are also reports of black marketing. Auto sector is also worried that the propane and butane uses in its plants may run short, with supplies now being directed for domestic consumers. Meanwhile, uninterrupted supplies is not the only concern, with natural gas prices tracking the path of crude oil in the global market. Prices have risen more than 10% in the past week after touching fresh highs at the COMEX. The government, meanwhile, insists there's no crisis. A 3-member panel has been constituted to address supply shortages of commercial LPG for industries like hotels and restaurants. There is also an effort to diversify imports, with a greater focus on the US and other big producers like Australia, Russia, Oman and Indonesia. However, this recalibration for the supply chain will take weeks to normalize. Bureau Report, Business Today Television. So India is suddenly hearing a new phrase: gas crisis. LPG shortages, PNG supply worries, cylinder prices rising. But here is the key question: is a gas crisis the same as oil crisis? The answer is not even close, because LPG, PNG and crude oil operates in a completely different system, and the impact on India is very different as well. Let's start by telling you how does oil operate, all right? Now, crude oil is the backbone of the economy, quite literally. It becomes petrol, it becomes diesel, jet fuel, industrial fuel as well. India imports about 80% of crude oil, it consumes, which means when oil prices rise, everything becomes expensive. Transport, logistics, manufacturing, food. An oil crisis quickly becomes an economy-wide crisis. Now, compare that to LPG. LPG is primarily a cooking fuel used in more than about 30 crore homes. Most of it goes directly into the kitchens, which means an LPG shortage does not shut down factories, but it hits households quite immediately. Families worry about refilling cylinders. Restaurants worry about cooking fuel. The crisis becomes visible in daily life. Let's look at PNG now. PNG works differently again. PNG is piped natural gas. It flows through city gas pipelines, mainly used in your and my homes, urban homes, restaurants, even, small industries, and in vehicles as CNG. If supply tightens here, Cities feel pressure first, but rural India, that remains largely unaffected. Another major difference here is the global exposure. Oil markets are global, remember. A war in West Asia, disruption in Russia, a hurricane in the US, all can move oil price overnight. And India feels the shock instantly. LPG and PNG supply is more controlled. Government can intervene. They can increase imports. They can divert refinery production, release stock. India typically has about 40 days, we are told, of LPG reserves. And reserving that also is not easy. It's not like you can hoard it. Giving policymakers some kind of breathing room here. There is also the subsidy factor. LPG is subsidized for millions of households under government schemes, which means that the state can cushion price shocks as well. Oil fuels, like petrol, diesel, however, are mostly market priced. So global prices spikes just sort of pass through much faster, and that leads to the biggest difference: economic impact. An oil crisis shakes the entire economy. Markets fall, inflation rises, currencies weaken. But a gas crisis, it is more of a household crisis. Painful for you and me, painful for our families, but less likely to derail economic growth. So while both involve energy, the consequences are very different. An oil shock hits the entire economy. A gas shortage hits the kitchen first. And for India, that difference makes all the difference. But listen, hey, what's the bottom line here? A war is a war, domestic or international. On home turf or international, it is at the end of the day the most costly for you and me, the common man. I hope that, made things a little bit clear. But if you still have questions, I certainly do. I thought I'll call upon Sakshi here from Business Today to try and help us understand this in a little bit more detail. Sakshi, this was my attempt at just breaking it down very simply for our viewers to say, how is it different?
Yeah.
I don't think in my lifetime, at least, I have seen a crisis of this magnitude.
Absolutely.
Where oil prices have gone up the way they have, or LPG crisis has been caused the way they have.
Yes.
When I was talking about this at home, my mother remembered, and she said back in the 90s when the Gulf War had happened, they had seen something like this, but never ever.
Yes.
Help us understand, how long is this to continue?
Yeah, that's $1 million question, Sunil, because the government is truly working on the scenario, because we've heard some positive statements from Donald Trump saying, yes, the war is nearly complete. We really hope that the war is nearly complete so that the rest of the situation can be normalized, because at this point in time, we're talking about LPG at households like you're talking about. Here, as per the Essential Commodities Act, I heard you make a mention of that. Yes, the government has also in a way, seeked or talked about force majeure so that they do not want any disruption to our houses. At least 100% of that demand will be met for now. But what is getting impacted is commercial. So restaurants, hotels, they are actually in a fix right now. What I'm told from all the experts who I've spoken to from the whole day, they're saying just 1 to 2 days of a supply is what we have at this point in time. But beyond that, the government really needs to tell them, will there be any sort of an ease with respect to the kind of supply that they will get to know? Will they get reduced? Will they completely be halted? If they are halted, then what will happen to all those people who are staying at hotels? They need food and water at this point in time. What will happen to thousands of people who are staying there? Even at a small hotel, Royal Orchid is what I was speaking to. He said that I have over 100 hotels at this point in time, 15,000 guests staying on, and I would not know how to provide them breakfast tomorrow morning. So that's the kind of scenario that's playing out. Now remember, this gas crisis is even bigger than the crude oil crisis because crude oil reserves are more than 50, 60 days with us. But for LPG, we do not have storage facilities at the country level, and therefore you are seeing people have only 1 to 2 days, and that too on a bigger scale.
But that begs the question, no, Sakshi, did the government not see this coming? Because this has come as a root shock to a lot of people. Were industries not prepared? Was the government itself not prepared? Because there seems to be suddenly this morning they woke up and said, oh, I've been told I'm not going to get any gas.
No, actually last 4 days we were already told that some of the industrials, they were already expecting this shortage to hit, because from the time that Qatar Energy, where we import almost 60% of our own needs as far as natural gas is concerned, when they talked about force majeure and when they said Petronet LNG will not be able to import LNG, which is our biggest importer of LNG at this point in time, that's when most of the industry experts realized that there could be some shortage. And 4 days ago, they had already started to talk to the government. This is as an important measure that has been taken to at least protect some of the industries, like
Can
households.
the government do something to soften
Yes,
the
they are
blow?
raising the production. I am told today there has been an uptick of 10% on the domestic production of LPG.
Okay.
But remember, the production is minuscule when we compare to the kind of imports that we do.
80% is imported, so.
Yeah, so 80% is imported of the 60% that we import. And there is about a 10% uptick in production on a day-to-day basis right now. They're saying all the refineries are now told that they have to, produce at 100% capacity right now. Plus, we will have to explore other sources. We're only dependent on Qatar and Saudi right now for our LNG and natural gas needs. But in case we explore maybe Norway, US, logistically it's much expensive. It is a longer route there, but we still have
it'll
options.
still take time.
It will take time for them to reach our shores, but that is already getting executed at this point in time. So the meetings are currently underway. There are a lot of to and fro happening. There are IOC, HPCL, BPCL, which are the 3 oil marketing companies. They have formed a committee and they are going to be speaking to all those restaurant agencies, hotel agencies, and on case-to-case basis, priorities will be set, and it's not like you will be able to hold on, but on a case-to-case basis, you will be now supplied. Some of the other cargoes will be coming in. So
I think fair to say that the cooking gas, or just say the gas crisis, is here to stay till the time we hear more on where the war is going to go. And even if the war were to say stop tomorrow, even then for the supply chain to get going, it'll take a while. So all of us, all we can do is pray perhaps and hope that Donald Trump, wakes up in a better mood and all of us get out of this war sooner rather than later, because now it's costing us and it's getting directly to our industries.
And
That's
kitchens.
it. Yes.
And our kitchens.
Yes. All right, let's cut across to some more breaking news coming in at this point, and this is the Secretary of War speaking. Let's listen in.
The Iranians have targeted and killed thousands of my American brothers. That race to a nuclear bomb, President Trump will never allow it. Not now, not ever, not on our watch. The mullahs are desperate and scrambling. Like the terrorist cowards they are, they fire missiles from schools and hospitals, deliberately targeting innocents, because they know their military is being systematically degraded and annihilated. Iran's neighbors, and in some cases former allies in the Gulf, they've abandoned them. And their proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas, either broken, ineffective, or on the sidelines. Iran stands alone, and they are badly losing. On day 10 of Operation Epic Fury, we are winning, with an overwhelming and unrelenting focus on our objectives, which are the same as the day I gave my first briefing here on Operation Epic Fury. They're straightforward, and we are executing them with ruthless precision. 1, destroy their missile stockpiles, their missile launchers, and their defense industrial base. Missiles and their ability to make them. 2, destroy their navy. And 3, permanently deny Iran nuclear weapons forever. It's a laser-focused, maximum authority mission delivered with overwhelming and unrelenting precision. No hesitation, no half measures. As President Trump declared yesterday, we're crushing the enemy in an overwhelming display of technical skill and military force. We will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated. But we do so on our timeline and at our choosing. For example, today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes, intelligence more refined and better than ever. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, the last 24 hours have seen Iran fire the lowest number of missiles they've been capable of firing yet. Just the bifurcation, just the trend lines that we talked about on our first briefing. You see, this is not 2003. This is not endless nation building under those types of quagmires we saw under Bush or Obama. It's not even close. Our generation of soldier will not let that happen again, and nor will this president, who very clearly ran against those kinds of never-ending, nebulously scoped missions. Those days are dead. Instead, we're winning decisively with brutal efficiency, total air dominance, and an unbreakable will to accomplish the president's objectives on our timeline. We stay locked on the target because here at the Department of War, that's our job. Now, the chairman and I, having just returned from Dover last night, our troops and their families and the enormous is certainly heavy on my mind. So I'll close with scripture, drawing strength from Psalm 144. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield, in whom I take refuge. May the Lord grant unyielding strength and refuge to our warriors, unbreakable protection to them and our homeland, and total victory over those who seek to harm them. And amen. God bless our troops and this mission.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm here today to continue the updates to the American people and to those in the room on Operation Epic Fury. First, let me start with honoring our fallen. As the Secretary said, on Saturday and again last night at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, our nation's leaders honored our returning fallen as they arrived home for their final time. Last week, I shared a few of the names, and today I want to share the rest. Major Jeffrey O'Brien and Chief Warrant Officer 3 Robert Marzan were the final two fallen to return home and members of the U.S. Army Reserve's 103rd Sustainment Command out of Des Moines, Iowa. Last night, as the news has been reporting, we honored the return of Staff Sergeant Benjamin Pennington of the U.S. Army's 1st Space Brigade from Fort Carson, Colorado. When I met Ben's family last night, his mom, his dad, and his sister, they showed me a picture, a drawing that Ben had made when he was in kindergarten. Clear all the way back then that Ben wanted to do one thing in his life, and he wanted to serve his country and be a soldier. And to the Penningtons, just know how Ben was absolutely a great one. And finally, Major Sorfleet Davies, who returned home this weekend after sadly passing away from a medical condition while on duty in Kuwait. We welcome him home as well and mourn with his family. To the families and the families of all of our fallen, we share in your profound grief. The Joint Force remains eternally grateful for your sacrifice and the gift of a great example that your service members have given all of us. I want you to know that their names will never be forgotten, and you and your family are part of our Joint Force family forever. Let me talk a little bit about the progress thus far, acknowledging that Admiral Cooper will likely continue to give updates from CENTCOM. As the Secretary said, we're in the 10th, moving into the 11th day of Operation Epic Fury. The Joint Force remains focused on 3 military objectives. Continue to destroy Iranian ballistic missiles and drone capability in order to prevent attacks on the U.S. and others throughout the region. And this means attacking launch sites, command and control nodes, stockpiles before they can threaten our personnel, our facilities, and our partners. Second, we continue to strike the Iranian Navy and their capabilities in order to do things like sustain movement through the Straits of Hormuz. And third, we continue to start working on and going deeper into Iran's military and industrial base in order to prevent the regime from being able to attack Americans, our interests, and our partners for years to come and project power outside their borders. This means servicing production facilities, research and development sites, and infrastructure. Let me turn to the map. We're going to try digital today to prevent laser injury. Since our last update, CENTCOM continues to make progress across the southern flank. To date, they've struck more than 5,000 targets. U.S. Strategic Command bombers recently dropped dozens of 2,000-pound GPS penetrating weapons on deeply buried missile launchers across the southern flank. We also have struck several one-way drone factories to get at the heart of their autonomous capability. And of course, alongside our regional partners along the southern flank, continue to execute intercepts against one-way attack drones using fighters and attack helicopters. Our strikes mean we've made significant progress in reducing the number of missile and drone attacks out of Iran. Ballistic missile attacks continue to trend downward, 90% from where they've started, and one-way attack drones have decreased 83% since the beginning of the operation. A testament to our air defenders and our air defense systems, and as I said, our partners in the region continue to do great work as well. Second, we're making substantial progress towards destroying the Navy. In the first 10 days of the conflict, we're more than 50 Iranian naval ships into the campaign using a combination of artillery, fighters, bombers, and sea-launched missiles. As Admiral Cooper noted last Thursday, we struck and sank an Iranian drone carrier ship, and U.S. CENTCOM continues today to hunt and strike mine-laying vessels and mine storage facilities. This work will continue. Third, against our objectives, we've begun to target Iran's military and industrial complex, again, focusing on centers of gravity to get upstream of the shooters out in the field in order to deny them the ability to continue to generate those one-way attack drones. Let me spend a minute talking about the joint force. Across the area of responsibility, this is gritty and tireless work. And I cannot begin to explain how incredibly proud I am of the extraordinary courage, tenacity, and grit and professionalism within the joint force. Last time I had a chance to talk about the Army's incredible logisticians who are out there sustaining the fight. Today I want to highlight a few groups of sailors. First, I want to thank the men and women of the Ford Carrier Strike Group and their families, and let all of them know how grateful I am for their leadership and service. The crews on board this strike group have already been endured months at sea only to get their deployment extended. These exceptional Americans, rogered up, all supported by their families, continue to stand the watch, taking the fight to the enemy over and over again, night after night. Aboard ships like the USS Ford and the Abraham Lincoln are a special group of sailors I want to highlight today. These are the men and women, the sailors up on the roof running operations on the flight deck. With an average age of the early 20s, these are the unsung heroes of naval aviation. These young sailors, known for wearing yellow shirts, are in charge of the catapults, taxiing jets around on the flight deck, shooting jets off the front end, and recovering jets off the back end. They are literally involved with every single movement on the roof on an aircraft carrier. They are the last ones that a naval aviator sees before getting shot off the front end, and the first one that a naval aviator sees after safely trapping on the back end. And just for a minute, imagine you're standing on that aircraft carrier flight deck. There's 30 knots of wind in your face. The deck is slippery, covered in grease. It's noisy. There are propellers spinning. There's jet blast everywhere. The helicopters are running. Your head is on a swivel, and you're trying to direct a multi-million-dollar fighter into a 1-foot square box so that those naval aviators can be shot off into the black of night to go do America's work. Those jets are fully loaded with missiles and bombs, and they are a world-class team combined with the naval aviation and the aviators in those jets. This beautiful symphony of American spirit is the definition of perfectly organized chaos. And these crews do it every single time the carrier is at work. Oh, by the way, in the middle of the night, and oftentimes in the pouring rain. These are dedicated young people who take the road less traveled to serve their great nation, doing the deeds that we need them to do. America's enlisted force is the pride of every nation's military, certainly ours, and the envy of every other one as well. Each and every one of them out there across the joint force are extraordinary, and in particular today I want to highlight the yellow shirts. Ladies and gentlemen, our work continues. It'll continue to be difficult. I ask every American to keep our deployed force and their families in our thoughts. Combat deployments can be tough on the force and the families, and it's important that we continue to remember that. I remain deeply humbled by the 2.8 million members of the Joint Force, and I'll end where I started, and that's remembering our fallen and their families whose sacrifice will be felt forever. And with that, I'll take some questions with the Secretary.
A beautiful symphony of American spirit. Well said, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir.
And I will just note that no other country in the world is capable of executing what the chairman just described, day after day, night after night, unrelenting. Well said. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Alexandra Ingersoll, One America News. You talked, Mr. Secretary, you talked at the conference in Florida on Thursday that there was a 90% missile capabilities degradation and 83% drone degradation, and I know the chairman just repeated those numbers. We've seen the most amount of fighting these past 5 days. Is there any update to those percentages? And also, are you able to give any quantification of degradation to nuclear capabilities yet?
What those numbers represent is a persistent low ability to respond, which is what we're looking for, right? It's if the enemy can simply wait and then project power, that's problematic. And we've seen some spurts here or there, but ultimately the trend lines, if you look at the charts that we look at every day,